the season was a great success this year. I couldn't ask for a better senior class to come into this program with just such rich tradition. Going 11-1, I don't think a lot of people would have guessed that. Whole new coaching staff, whole new system. I had never coached with any of the assistants. Coach Schutz had coached me my senior year, but I'd never coached with any of the coaches that we put on staff. I had to find all new coaches because some of my assistants I wanted to bring could not come over with, they had job promotions and things like that. We were able to assemble a great staff that meshed great with our kids, but it's a whole new staff. So coaches were learning from each other, and then you have a senior class that's used to the triple option, which is a great offense, but they had never thrown the ball really to where we were a balanced attack and threw the ball quite a bit. We threw the ball, I think we threw over 2,000 yards this year. To be able to overcome all those obstacles, beat St. Henry, win that close game against a good Troy Christian team, beat Miami East, win the outright CCC title, go undefeated, host a playoff game and have a shutout in a playoff game with a brand new defense as well, with a complete new defensive coordinator, and I call the plays on offense, so complete different offense and defensive coordinator. You can't, ask for a better group and a better success than what we had, really, considering all the situations, then all the injuries. You talk about Seth Thomas tears his ACL in the summer and plays through it. That kid's a two-way starter, and we only got to use him on one side of the ball. That really would have helped us on the interior D-line. Karl Langford had numerous stingers that held him out. Ethan Herron, one of our best players, gets hurt early in the season, and other guys have to step up. And this team is so resilient. So many guys stepped up, and Joe Schmelzer was sicker than a dog in that Fort Recovery game. Out there trying to fight through and get through it, and we just had so many injuries and so many adverse situations. But it just shows you what these kids are all about. The work ethic from day one when I was here. They told me they wanted to win a state championship, and I've been in a lot of programs. I coached a lot of places, and nobody works like these kids do. And the leadership from these seniors on work ethic and just toughness and being a good teammate and having that team chemistry. They loved playing together, and they were so selfless. That's the thing, that this group was the most selfless group. They didn't care who got the stats. They didn't care, who rushed for what, who got so many tackles or whatever. They were all about playing together and winning for Covington, and they're all about carrying on the tradition. And even just now, after I got done talking to them, after the season's over, they want to pass the torch, and they want the future to do even better than what they did. I mean, that just speaks volumes for these type of kids. And I just love this group, and I didn't want it to end. Obviously our ultimate goal is to win the state championship, and that's pretty tough to do, considering a whole new system, and they've been taught a different way for all those years. To come in and have a chance to do that is just an amazing accomplishment, I think. And obviously we set the bar here high at Covington because we think we can win a state championship. And I think if we play on a different day, I don't care what the score says. I know a lot of people would doubt us, but I think it would be a lot closer game. And if we were healthy and hitting on all cylinders, I think that we legitimately had a good enough team to win a state championship. And that would always haunt me because I feel like we were good enough to do it, especially in the skill positions. We were undersized on the defensive line, and we made up for that in a lot of ways. But once again, if we didn't have those injuries, that would have helped as well. But I don't want to make excuses. We played, the best we could with what we had, and we're doing a lot better than a lot of other teams. 11-0 is something to be very proud of. And these kids, everybody that talked to me about our team talked about how physical we were, how tough we were, how hard we played, and that's exactly what you want out of your team. You can't ask anymore if you're a coach about. I always tell the kids you can always control your attitude and your effort. And those kids always controlled that, and they worked their tails off, and they always gave maximum effort. And I just feel honored and blessed to be part of this group. And I wish I could have coached them for 4 years. And that's the frustrating part for me, is I never get to coach these seniors again. But I am very blessed to have coached that group, and I can't thank them enough. For buying into what we wanted to do, and it couldn't have been easy when they're taught something different for so long. But these guys wanted to win, and they knew what it took, and it took everybody to buy in. It was a great year. Tristan Sowers, that kid. First time I heard that he was possibly playing football, I was like, man, that guy's built. He is huge. That guy's got to play football. And he was like, I don't know if I want to play. And And the guys really tried to talk him into it, and he heard we were throwing the ball, so I think that helped him think about possibly playing. I'm so glad he played. I wish he would have been a little bit meaner, but the kid just made plays. I mean, you throw a ball up to that guy, he's going to go get it. He's very athletic. He built like a man already. Just a fun kid to go watch. He got a lot better in the secondary. I just wish he would have played football longer. I think he would have been a lot better player if he was able to play those 4 years. And he even said that. He even said he regretted not playing all 4 years. I think he only played a couple years. And, man, he was huge to our success on our offense. And Nate loved throwing to him, and I loved, against St. Henry, think how many big catches he made in just some other games. He made some big catches, and he was a big part of our success this year. And I'm going to miss him having that type of target out there in the Twin Towers with him and Zach. I have Zach back, but not him. But it was, I had a lot of fun coaching a guy like Tristan Sowers. Nathan Blei, what can you say about the kid? Such a great leader. One of the smartest kids I've ever coached in my life, and he's just that calm guy. Doesn't matter what's going on, he's going to stay calm, and that's huge at the quarterback position. And being a leader that he is, to come from a triple option offense where he started, I think since his freshman or sophomore year, to come into throwing the ball. Honestly, he shocked me. I didn't think he'd be able to make the decisions he did, and man, his precision on his accuracy of throwing the football. Now he had great targets, but man, I mean, he broke 2 records this year. I do believe passing yards in the season over 2,000 yards, and then 28, I think, touchdowns he threw for. And he only threw 5 picks, and never throwing the ball and only throwing 5 picks. And honestly, a couple of them were just he trying to heave it to make something happen. So I mean, he made great decisions. Great player. He started on defense too. Always positive, always, like I said, calm in pressure situations. A kid like that's rare to have on a football team, and I am very blessed. I feel blessed to have coached a kid like that, and it made it nice for me as an offensive coordinator. He would make so many checks at the line, and I trust him to do that. And he was so smart. He was able to pick up on stuff and communicate it to everybody so quickly. He just did a great job, just such a smart kid, and we will greatly miss him, and I wish I could have coached him a lot longer. But there's not enough you can say about him. He's going to be very successful in life, very intelligent, hardworking young man. Lance Miller, we built a great bond this year. A great kid, so strong, tough. He's just a high motor. I would have never guessed he would have ran the ball as well as he did this year. He was rushed over 1,000 yards, and we had multiple weapons to rush for 1,000 yards. For how many carries he got, it's pretty impressive. He had a couple 200-yard rushing games, and then on defense, he was second in the team in tackles. Just flew around. One of the toughest kids. You ask the other kids about him, they just talk about how tough he is. Great leader, a very vocal guy. Can't say enough about him. Just tenacious, has that Covington attitude, and he's not even originally from here, transferred over here, and thank God he transferred over here from Greenville, and fit in great, and the kids loved him. Just tough as nails. He is that definition of toughness. And he had big games and big moments, and he was always flying around making plays. He's one of the best linebackers I've ever coached, just flying to the football. He's just got that knack, the nose for the ball. And then on offense, I mean, you watch a Troy Christian game, he's just running through people. He just one of those kids he wanted to refuse to lose, and just a tough kid, and we'll greatly miss his leadership and his toughness. He made all the calls on defense, and we'll miss him being a leader on defense for sure. I wish him the best of luck, and he's going to be successful in life because of that work ethic he has. What can you say about Zane? He's not the biggest guy in the world, I'll tell you that, but he's got a heart of a lion. I remember talking to Coach Schutz about him in the summer, and we talked about how small he was, and I told Coach Schutz, man, he was a player last year, though. Man, he's small. He makes up for it, though. Looks are deceiving when you look at Zane Barnes. Just playmaker, on defense. He made plays after plays, all the sacks he had, and he found a way on blitz packages to get through there. He found a way to make so many tackles from the backside. There's so many times he'd be held in games and still find a way to make a play. And then on offense, whenever we did put him at tight end, he made great catches. I think he had almost the same amount of catches as he did touchdowns. So he was just a great playmaker on both sides of the ball, and just such a humble kid, like all these seniors are. They're just such humble kids. No arrogance about them. Just go to work and work hard. And Zane's one of those kids that's silent, tough guy. He'll hit you with everything he's got, and he's tough as nails. But he's a string bean. If he'd only be a little bit bigger, I can only imagine the things he could have done. But his work ethic and his heart really separates him, and I'm going to greatly miss that young man. Brandon Robinson, what can you say about that kid? Gosh, that guy's got a motor. Brandon is, one of the fastest kids that I've coached. But I think the best thing about Brandon that separates him is there's no one that wants to hit somebody more than Brandon does, and he blocks the whistle. And he really loved blocking people. In a skill position, usually guys don't want to block. They just want to get the stats and make some catches or run the ball. He loved blocking, and he was such a great teammate. And he had so many pancake blocks, driving guys 15, 20 yards downfield. And he just did a great job with that. And then so many great spectacular catches. He's so athletic. He made some one-handed catches a couple times in games. Just ran great routes, great footwork. Defensively, he's just trying to come to hit you. And he's the epitome of what you want out of just a defensive player, or just any football player, just that nasty edge that you can't really teach to somebody. They either have it or they don't. And he just tried to knock it out of you. And he's just such a tough kid. I always remember him for his toughness and just how he wanted to go whistle to whistle. And then how much he cared about Covington football. That tradition just means so much to him. And when you heard him, if you would have heard him talk to the younger guys, he just talked about how important this tradition is to him, and how important Covington is to him and Covington football. And he just wanted to do so well. And these seniors are all really bummed that they didn't win a state championship because they worked so hard. And he's definitely one of those guys that wants to see the program get to that point and wishes that he was part of that. But just such a great kid, tough kid, and his work ethic is going to help him in life, and his toughness, and he's very mentally tough. And I'm glad he's able to stay healthy, because I know he's dealt with all kinds of adversity in the past before I got here, and I was glad that he was able to stay healthy, and he was a huge part of our success this year. Cody Taylor, he's one of those kids that he wasn't able to be here in the summer with us. I know he came to the first meeting, where I met with the team, and he said, "Coach, I want to play, but I got to go to boot camp." I said, "Well, if you're still wanting to play when you come back." And when he came back, he was here every day. He worked his tail off. It just so happened he was behind some great linebackers out of Lance Miller and Darren White, or he would have started. I mean, he gave a phenomenal look. He gave the best scout team look I've ever had from any place I've been. Tremendous defensive scout team player. I wish he would have been able to play longer. And I wish he would have been, I would have been able to coach him longer, because he was tough as nails, and just such a good kid. He really did whatever it took to be a good teammate. Offensively, we started teaching him some running back. It was good to get him some carries there. We got him a few carries, but he just did whatever you asked him to do. He's one of those guys, and he was a special teams player that did a great job on special teams, and just tough as nails, and it just made our team wouldn't be successful without guys like him on the scout team giving us great looks in practice. And I'm going to miss that kid. He's a very funny kid too, and being in the military, very appreciative of his service, and our country's, guys like that make you proud of our country, and proud of kids like that to serve our country, to make you have the freedoms that we have to be able to coach and play this great game of football. Darren White, toughest per pound kid I've ever coached. Just, no one outworks Darren White. We have a lot of hard workers here at Covington, but he's on another level. The coaches always talked about how hard he worked in the weight room, how hard he worked all the time, and we always talk about how we think he'd eat nails. He's just that tough. Not a very big guy, heart of a lion. Like I said, the toughest per pound kid I've ever coached. Playing linebacker at 160 pounds or whatever he was, and he's been starting since he was a sophomore. Coach Miller always talked spoke very highly of him, and there's a reason. I mean, that kid is just a special human being, very intelligent yet tough. He's going to be very successful in life, and he's hilarious. You know, he's always up to, you know, playing pranks on me and the teammates, and he loved to pull pranks on me in my classroom when I wasn't in here, and photobomb me when I'm getting interviewed for Buccs Weekly and things like that. He's just a hilarious kid. He understands what it takes to be a great football player and a great teammate and a great leader. The kids all spoke so highly of him. He's just such a great kid. He's going to be greatly missed for his humor and just his toughness. He showed the kids, just like all of our seniors did, how you're supposed to work. And you know, we'll greatly miss him. Now, and you know, he proves that you don't have to be the most athletic guy in the world. I mean, he'd probably be mad at me for saying this, but he doesn't have the greatest hands in the world. But he made up for it in so many other ways. He's so tough, and he hit you with everything he had, and a really smart kid and a good football player. Mark Bargy, he was a kid that came out late, asked if he could still play, getting closer into season, and you know, we let him play. He ended up doing a good job. We just wish that he would have been here longer, and just he was be a little bit meaner. But he had the football frame, and he played on some special teams and gave us some good looks in practice. You know, just unfortunate that he came out so late. He played at Bradford, I think, his freshman year, and those couple years off really hurt him. Being in the weight room, being around football, he was slower to react at first. But as the season went on, he got better, and he ended up contributing on special teams and on the scout team. We were able to give him a few carries at running back as we tried to give all seniors carries. But he's a great kid. You know, he's got good work ethic, and I think he'll be successful. Kenny, he came early in the summer, Kenny Atkinson, and then he came back and said, "Can I come back out?" And I said, "Yeah, if you're back tomorrow, you can come back." And it was during our camp days, and man, I'm so glad he played. I would have never guessed that he would have been starting on the offensive line, because we started him out as a tight end, wide receiver type guy, and he ended up starting at right tackle almost every game. I think it might have been every game, and he got better every week. I can only imagine how good that kid could have been if he would have played all 4 years. You know, he was one of the most improved players I've ever seen in a year's time. And he's just such a great kid. And he's smart, and that helps him. He's smart, and I think he wanted to protect his buddy Nathan Blei back there, quarterback, so that probably helped as well, as close as he is with Nate. But he did a great job in pass blocking. He was getting lower every week. I just wish that he would have played a couple more years, because I think he would have been a really awesome lineman. But he did great for only playing for a year, and I'll definitely miss Kenny, a great kid. Adam Lefevers, the kid, he still makes me smile. He's with Darren and always playing pranks on me, and we have a little inside joke with this snake bite monster truck stuff. But he's a hilarious kid. But you talk about a kid that just does whatever for the team. Anywhere else he played, besides a small school like ours, he's probably trying to get a chance to run the ball or play linebacker. But for us, he's a lineman. And he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he gives you everything he has. Very smart. I'll never forget when he dislocated his finger and was like, "Coach!" And then he went back to practice right after that. Just tough as nails, and such a good kid. Good-hearted kid. Him and a couple of our kids like Darren and I think Nate does too. They tutor kids, and they help kids out here at school too. And he's just one of those guys that's willing to help anybody out. Two-way starter, never came off the field. In great shape, a distance type guy. And just really was able to keep things positive and be upbeat about everything. And he was just a pleasure to coach on both sides of the ball. I coached the O-line, so I got to be down there with him. And man, he was a great leader on the offensive line, and great player for us. Just undersized for his position, but you can't say enough for him. He's going to be very successful in life. Karl, or Carlos Langford, as we like to refer to him now. The jokester of the team. You know, he liked to pull a lot of pranks on me too. Karl, if there was one thing I wish he would have fixed, it'd be more serious, and I think he would agree. But great kid, really tough kid. had some injury issues with stingers, and his knee hurt him in the in the off-season lifting. But he played through it, and I just wish he was able to play both ways, because I think he could have really helped us, especially on our D-line. But he ended up getting better at pass blocking as the year went on. He was a really good run blocker. He's just a funny kid, really tough. Was one of the leaders on our offensive line, and he did a really good job with the freshmen. The freshmen really seemed to flock to him, and he sometimes Karl can say some things that he shouldn't say, but Karl's just one of those human beings. He's hilarious, and he's going to speak his mind, but I am going to miss him, and he was a good football player for us. Seth Thomas, watched a bunch of film before I got the job here on him, and I'm so excited to have him both sides of the ball. He just gets done squatting, I think it was like 500 pounds, 525, something like that, parallel, and then he tears his ACL on a conditioning drill. And we were all distraught. We didn't think he was going to be able to play, and then the kid says, nope, I want to play my senior year. I'm going to tough through it. And he gets through the whole entire season until the Fort Recovery game, but he still ended up finishing that with a torn ACL. I mean, what else can you say about the kid? I mean, if that's not toughness, I don't know what is. Great leader, very vocal, awesome offensive lineman. Got Pancake Player of the Week almost every week. Had 19, I think, in one game where he's driving and putting guys on the ground. Just tough as nails. And he could have really helped us on the defensive side of the ball, and I was really unfortunate that he couldn't play defensively for us. But there's nobody else I'd rather have at center in a war for me than Seth Thomas, and he's just a great leader. Like I said, very vocal, and he'll let you know if you're not working hard. He was one of those guys that get in your face type of guys that I think you need on your team, and he was that guy. And he's going to be greatly missed in many ways, and I hope he continues that work ethic. He'll be very successful in life, and I wish him the best in his surgery. Christian Nelson, he started off slow this year, and then he just got better every week. Defensively, he improved light years, was really starting to get it, and then he breaks his wrist. He played through a game with a broken wrist. He might even played longer than a game with a broken wrist. He's not even sure exactly when he did it, and just shows you the toughness that these kids have here at Covington and how tough Christian was. Very quiet kid, not real sure of himself, didn't have a lot of confidence, but built nice and very strong kid. And he finally started to realize, maybe I am strong, maybe I can do this. And once he started to get confidence and knew what he was doing, he improved light years and started to become a really good football player. And then he gets injured, and it's just one of those things. It was just bad luck, and he really helped our defensive line out a lot, because we were, with Karl being injured and only being able to play one side, Seth only being able to play one side, Christian was huge for us. And then he got hurt, and we had to move Ian in there, a younger guy. But Christian did a good job for us, and it was unfortunate that he got hurt, and I hope he does well in life, and we'll miss him. Next year's team, we should be pretty good. We have a lot coming back. We're losing a huge class, but the potential's there. But potential is one of those scary words. I think we have the potential to be as good as we were this year, as scary as that sounds, or even better. But there's a big but there. What are we going to do about it? I mean, how are we going to get there? And that's what everybody's going to wonder. And it starts off with, how are we going to work in the off season? From now until next season, what are we going to do? And we have a tougher schedule, and we're going to be young in some places. So, we started off with St. Henry, Minster, and Fort Laramie to start the season, and we have great scrimmages to help us get ready. But, we're going to be young and in some positions, and we'll have some seniors in some positions as well. But I think what we have to do is we have to have a huge off season. And I want them to play other sports. I encourage them, because I want them to compete. So they need to go into other sports and compete in it. And hopefully in those sports they're getting stronger. And if they're not, they need to be lifting when they can, and they need to be doing push-ups, and they need to be getting stronger, because you can't replace strength. And we have to get better on the offensive line and get stronger. And so those lineman type guys have to really have a huge off season. Our big young guys have to live in the weight room. They just have to. And a lot of it is just attitude. How good do you want to be? What kind of attitude are you going to take? Are you going to say, oh, I'm from Covington, people are just going to let us win, and we're just going to go through the motions and be mediocre? Or am I wanting to really win a state championship and get the maximum out of myself and maximum out of my team and put in as much work as I can and then see what happens. And if we do that, I think we're going to have a great season. But you got to have good leaders. And, we have some good leaders and that I think can be some great leaders. We're about to find out if they're going to get guys in the weight room and positively encourage, but at times when they need to be firm with them, to get them in the weight room, to get them to some speed things and go see guys like Tremaine or go to some snap fitness and get quicker and work and going out and throwing the ball on their own. Working on, that's a huge advantage they have this year over last year's team is they got a year with the system. So now they can know what routes to go run. Now if they paid attention, they can know who to read and what coverages for our quarterbacks. And our quarterbacks need to be leaders and go out and throw with receivers. And our linemen need to work on getting stronger and working on having quicker feet. And they can go do those type of things. And if our kids really buy into doing that, and they have that attitude of we want to just be tough and mean and win a state championship and not just a conference championship, which that's what we want first. But if they have that right attitude, I think we can have a great year next year. But it's one of those things. You don't know. Potential is a scary thing. I've coached a lot of kids that had a lot of potential that didn't reach it. I've had other kids that exceed what I thought they could have and have kids reach what I thought they'd be. So you don't know. What is this group going to do? This junior class has a lot of returning starters. When you talk about, Zach Parrott, Ty Freeman, Bowen Swank, Ethan Herron, all four of them, Joe Schmelzer, all five of them started at some point and played a lot. Sophomores, Ian Wilson and Eli Gerling coming back. So you could talk about that's 7 guys I can think of that played a lot of football. So that's going to be huge if I have that experience going into next year. But there's some big holes to fill, and then those guys they're not guaranteed a spot. So I'll be interested to see how this freshman, going to be sophomore class, how they develop, how they work, if they get more focused this year because they need to be more focused, and how strong they get. And then this upcoming freshman class has a lot of talent. But that sophomore class, they're going to be juniors. We're going to expect them to step up and be leaders. And those other seniors that didn't start, guys like Caleb Brooks, Brad Wiggins, Bryce Kaiser, guys like that, what are they going to do to get on the field? So there's a lot of things that to be excited about, but there's a lot of unknowns, and how you fix those is you just work your tail off. You get in there with Coach Swank. If you're not playing another sport, if you're playing another sport, you compete to the max. And then when you're ready to go for football, you give it everything you have and you never miss. And you push yourself to maximum effort so you can deserve victory coming next year.